I was going to talk about Florida politics and why it's a hot shit show. As I alluded to Wednesday, the last show. But what I'm going to do is do a local election. Well, all elections are local, aren't they? All politics is local. So what I'm going to do, what I'm going to do is, I'm sorry. I know I'm still new at this and I'm a hot mess. Cha cha cha. 13 minutes. Let's do it. All right. 13 minutes. The topic is a view from afar, the New York City Mayoral Race. All right. So, how do I even start? You know what? How I'm going to start? I'm going to pause this, go get an ice cube. Give me 5 seconds. Maybe 20 seconds. All right, I'm sorry. I'm just a little all over the place. I'm having quite a day. All right, so I've got an ice cube here. And the trick is putting it in without spilling it every place, because that is day class say. All right, one more time. And of course, I'm so soaked. All right, we're going to start this one more. Can't use this. This is my sweat, right? Cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha. You know, why did I even start this late? Till 10 minutes. All right. Let's just start it over. Done. And Zen. All right, here we go. I am Truist Armour. Let's open up the chat. And this is a view from afar, the New York City Mayoral Race. All right. So let's run through all the people in the New York City mayoral race. I can shut this down. I'm gonna keep that open. I should look up the Wikipedia for some of this stuff. Oh, all right. So my name is Truist Armour. Catch me on Twitter as Karma Armor, and my gaming tag, and on YouTube as True S Armor. TRU space S space Armor. All right, so here we are, the New York City mayoral race. I'm trying not to be smug and trying to be lighthearted and effervescent with like whoever's watching, but at the same time, I'm also sort of tired of New York City. As a native New Yorker and an ex-New Yorker, I'm sort of tired of believing in the city fathers who want you to believe in them but never come across. So in the New York City mayoral race, my goodness gracious, what is mayoral race? Cut that off. New York City mayoral race. All right. There are 5 players. Scott Stringer, a Democratic pod person. He's been there for. There you go, locked in, please. He's been there forever. A man of, I guess, strong loyalty, but little actual achievements. Not a fan of Stringer. Actually, some of you, if you're media savvy, you can find him having a press conference and me walking by going, what did I say? You suck. You haven't done anything. You're another freaking, I forgot what I said. Anyway, yeah, as I sort of was on my way while he was in front of downtown Manhattan, in front of like where the New York City Police Department is, the Brooklyn Bridge ends. Just pod people who don't do anything make me crazy. So that's Scott Stringer. Having said that, you shouldn't hold what someone who I can't prove this at all, it's just my opinion, was told to say about him. Now all of a sudden, you have first of all, stop dating at work. But you date someone at work, and now all of a sudden when it doesn't work out, you were raped and he's a sexual offender. And people are like, what? So I mean, politics in that city is just shaggy to begin with. Um, yeah, Scott Stringer, uh, Democratic functionary. Next is Raymond McGuire, someone you never heard of, and he strikes me full on smells like the kind of guy who, when we were kids growing up in the city, wouldn't hang out because he was too busy studying. He didn't like, and then like when he was 18, 19, everything we did was stupid because he was going to go and be a success, and then he ran off and he became a success. Good for him. But now he's back looking like I can save you, and you were never ever actually part of us to begin with. So keep it walking. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's one thing to hang out with us and party with us and do well and always associate with us. But if you abandon us, don't come back 30 years later as a millionaire talking about make me mayor. So I'm not crazy about McGuire. He's another Wall Street, functionary. And then there's Sean Donovan. All right. Sean Donovan. I don't. Okay, first, I personally do not like him, and I will tell you why. He used to be my neighbor. He lived across the street from me on Bergen Street between Smith and I forgot where I used to live, between Smith and I want to say Wyckoff, right? But that's not it. He never spoke to anybody in the neighborhood. The only time I ever saw him was with his weird bicycle pants and like two other like obviously bicyclists, but they those three, you know, Mouseketeers or Musketeers or whatever. They were. I mean, he had two kids, and the kids played with kids in the neighborhoods as kids do. His wife only talked to the other people who were gentrifying Brooklyn. I don't think his wife even knew any black people. And they bought in, they gentrified, and then they sold the house, I guess, at like a giant, you know, markup. I used to see him being dropped off by his security detail when he got off the plane with Obama. So 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, when I hear that he doesn't know how much it costs to live in New York City, I'm not surprised by that because he's not really of New York City. Yeah, he was born there, Upper West Side, but the grit and gristle of New York. The meat of New York. If New York was a steak, the meat of New York is the people, right? And that fat, gristly stuff, that marbles and makes it interesting, would be the Broadway shows and some of the interesting sites and some of the cool personalities. Like we have, like Donald Trump was a New York City personality before he became president. Like so, all that kind of like lends to the like fantasticness of the place. Um, Having said that, just because you're there and you're rich does not mean you should be in politics. So, yeah, like I said, he was my next door neighbor. He lived literally 90 feet across the street. We were opposite houses. It was my house. It was the sidewalk. It was the street, the bus path, the sidewalk, and then his house. And I've never seen him say anything to anybody. Um, you know, Heath Ledger lived around the corner from me too. He was at least a nice neighbor. God rest him. He tried to come out and have drinks at the bars, but all the transplanted sycophants wouldn't leave him alone. Right. So there's a lot of like people moving in trying to be part of the neighborhood, and people moving in with money just being isolated and assholish and hoping to move the rest of the low brown people out of there. Right. So I'm not a fan of Sean Donovan. Barack Obama's housing secretary, for fucking God's sakes. Then there's Maya Wiley, who, in my opinion, is a Clinton functionary. The Clintons have taken over the Democratic Party. They totally tanked the NAACP. All these, hey, we're for you that they did in the 80s have come back to haunt black folk and their children. So her throwing shade at like Adams in the race just strikes me as desperate functionary BS, right? I don't know what she did before she became a Clinton functionary, but I know since then that's all she's ever been. And this week she said, take guns away from cops, which is interesting because I don't know what the cops are going to do when they run up against a bad guy with a gun. So someone's going to have to explain that to me. Yeah, and mind you, I've had to chase people and rest with people and fight, you know, uh, Yeah, it is what it is, what it is, what it is, isn't it? And that's what it is. So I think she's just a Clinton functionary and can't be trusted. And there's a lot of Clinton functionaries on television smiling in your face and lying to you, but I can't approach that without being like stricken from some platform. That this show should be a little longer than 13 minutes. So this is going to go a bit longer than 13 minutes. And then there's Eric Adams. Now, Eric Adams, I could do a whole 13 minutes on Eric Adams. I should start this whole thing over and do a whole 13 minutes on Eric Adams. Eric Adams is a neighborhood kid, right? Born in like Brooklyn, and I think in like Bed-Stuy, and lived in lived in Brownsville. Grew up there, like Brownsville, Bushwick. Bushwick says here, grew up there, right? Went to the police. Went to the police academy. Graduated second in his class, which is not easy to do, no matter what class you're doing it in. Uh, was the founder of 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement. Um, was a journeyman policeman, right? He took the policeman's test. He did well on it. He complained about bad treatment in the police department. Took the sergeant's test. They wouldn't promote him. He had to sue for it. He had to sue. They made him sergeant after he had to sue. And then they wouldn't make him lieutenant, and then he had to sue for his lieutenantship, if that's a word. And then he passed the captain's test, and then again, if memory serves, he had to sue. Here's the thing about like looking up Eric Adams on Wikipedia. Wikipedia doesn't say much about his police lawsuits against the city. It says all this other stuff, but I remember as a city person following his rise, a young man following his rise. That must have been like 1920. And then when I became a policeman, really followed his rise. So for them to omit all this stuff where the New York City Police Department stood against him his whole career, as well as the PBA stood against him as a policeman, until he got promoted. I guess they were happy to get rid of him, and then he was in the sergeants union. But he still battled to make sure that your kid was not a victim of nonsense, ridiculous bullshittery from some random mean policeman, right? Not white cops, just mean policemen. So, neighborhood kid, come through the ranks, work for the DA's office to get through college, right? Didn't piecemeal, right? He didn't get a giant thing for 4-year school. He went first, he had faith in himself and the system. So he went through community college first, a 2-year program where most people go down line. So he did that. Then he, hold on now. And then he, I've got my notes all mixed up here. So yeah, he mentioned how many times he took. Yeah, he obviously has enemies. Here's another thing. All these people in New York City who claim to be, black liberals, right? Not black liberals, excuse me. For black progress, who are white liberals. None of them endorse them. Why? Why is that? Why would they not endorse them? Right. So last year, well, there was a pandemic last year, but the year before last, you were showing up in our churches after all these shootings, talking about all of us and we can fix it. Now there's this guy who's come up through the ranks. You don't support him. Why don't you support him? Because, he's a little too not one of you, right? So I think Maya Wiley would do exactly what you told her to do, whoever you are. And I think that's what it is. I think people people who have been voting and marching for so long, he may be the thing that gets them back to the party. Because I'm completely tired of the Democratic Party. But if Eric Adams becomes mayor, I'm sort of reignite. I'm sort of back into it. I see a lot of these young go-getter young people straight out of college running for this, that, or the other thing, inspired by Barack Obama, the community activist who, after leaving the White House, has been nowhere near anybody's community, period. I just roll my eyes at them. they seem to me, we're going to restart this thing again. They seem to me to be the next generation of people who will sit there for 40 years, like the Congressional Black Caucus, and do jack bone nothing. Um, Eric Adams does not strike me as that. Eric Adams strikes me as a fighter. So yeah, I'm pretty sure you can find somebody who'll dig up something he didn't say. He said that they didn't like or about this, but I can do the same thing. I can do the same thing with the Clintons, quite frankly. So I guess my real message is, if he loses, what are you gonna ask the new mayor when the next person gets killed? What is he gonna tell you? Why should you believe him? And why should he believe that you are serious about wanting to cure this problem when you could have had a mayor who would have seriously taken on the problem, right? So he knows you're not serious, and you still have faith in someone who we all know is not serious, whoever that person may be. I think the only person you can seriously look at for this uh, position is a native son, right? He's got no endorsements from, like, in the Democratic Party, the PBA. He's an ex-cop, and the PBA is not endorsing him. Yeah, think about that. The Working Families Party, where the fuck are they, right? Excuse my language. Where the heck are they? They always come to Black communities for our votes. Now all of a sudden they're conspicuously silent. I don't know. Look, listen, the next time these people show up after the next police murder in your church, you should lose your mind and make sure that that reverend, whoever he is not, you know, pastor of that church very much longer. I think they use our hope and our faith against us, and that's the thing. So if you have a kid in New York City, you should be concerned about who the next mayor of New York is, and how much fight he has in the game. And if you've ever criticized the New York City Police Department for its behavior, if you're a Black person in New York City, um, you should seriously be thinking about this. And if you make less than, like, 40 grand a year, it's also an economic thing. If you make less than 40 grand a year in New York City, I think the only person who can recognize your plight, your pain, is not the billionaire mayors or all these moneyed lawyers who come grinning at you from Wall Street, like Andrew Yang. Yeah, he was fake from the start. He doesn't have a history of doing anything for anybody but himself. He didn't go to law school. He didn't go to business school and then end up on Wall Street for you. And his whole argument, quite frankly, is give away money. That's not a hard argument. Who doesn't like that? But that's not sustainable. And he's a glad hander. And his incredible mix-up of, like, 3 weeks ago speaks to that. So all those people who were pushing him up to 3 weeks ago, who are now sort of silent on Andrew Yang, shows that they don't know what they're talking about either. Right? So stop listening to these people on TV telling you your best bet when they have skin in the game, because they want to keep you in the position that you are, because they take money from the people who make money keeping you where you are. I mean, remember this past week, yesterday I think it was, there was a report about billionaires not paying any taxes. So let me get this straight. You don't fight wars. You don't have to pay taxes. Some of you aren't even American. Why am I even humoring this shit with you people? Why are you allowed to buy American? Hold on. All right. Two things happened this week. I had to wet my whistle. Two things happened this week. One, it was found out that, well, it wasn't really found out that, but, like, China is sort of, people are really becoming concerned about China, right? But all the things that you're saying about China has been said before. Why is it a big thing now? Because there are people in high office who take money from the Chinese government. I mean, how is that not just the craziest thing to happen? And they're emboldened because, while they're our enemy, they're wrapped around us like a boa constrictor financially. Well, how is that allowed to happen? So, I mean, the people in New York are the same but local of a larger political body that is money driven and stupid. And I think we are in a bad place, and we had better start electing people who are serious, right? Who have a history of being serious. So I think Eric Adams is that guy. I think Eric Adams is that candidate. And like I said, if you don't elect him in November 4th or 5th or whatever, when a cop kills some unarmed innocent, I don't want to say innocent, but let's say unarmed uh, person under dubious circumstances, and then the PBA releases a fucking statement, not even bold enough to stand out in front of a lectern and answer questions about it. I'm going to say that you deserve this. You do. You don't keep getting to go. We have this horrible problem where the dragon comes and, burns down our village, but, we do nothing about it. So, your village is about to be burned down, and now you can do something about it. Your dragon slayer is at hand, quite frankly. And it's going to be you. I mean, I don't know about all the other stuff that they always want your New York City mayor to know, the financial markets and all that. That always seemed to me about a boy club bullshit. Maybe he should be the one who goes, yeah, no, that's not as important as, uh, your First Amendment and your Second Amendment, your Third Amendment rights, right? These inalienable rights that your rights are, how can I explain to you your rights? Your rights, your freedoms are like sex appeal, right? So your freedoms are always supposed to be active. So if, let's say, oh, hey, everyone, let's say there's a pretty girl walking across the way, right? And you see her, or a handsome guy walking across the way and you see him. He doesn't know that, or she doesn't know that you see him or her, but they look a certain way, and you're like, oh wow, because their wavelength is passive. It's always on. They're not trying to do anything about it. I mean, you can bump it up, obviously, with makeup and like a lipstick or whatever, but generally, it's just always on. People like who they like, right? Versus turning on your sex appeal, like I just said, you can put on makeup and slide up to me and be like, hey, big guy. And I'm like, oh, she's making on me. Oh, yeah. So this is a sign. But a lot of this time, like back to your freedoms are always supposed to be this passive thing. I can juggle in the street. I can ride a unicycle. I can, uh, do all this goofy, nonsensical freedom weirdness stuff. I could dress as a clown all day throughout my life in America. No one cares, right? But your rights, like your freedom is always active, but your rights, like I said, that sexual thing that gets activated, your rights only get activated when you need them. So if I'm walking down the street and the cops go, hey, you right there, I want to talk to you, and I don't want to talk to you, right? And the cops have a certain amount of rights to stop me and inquire what I'm, but there has to be, it can't be for any reason, right? It has to be for a reason. Someone just got shot and that guy's wearing a flag on his shirt. That's why we stop you. If I'm wearing a happy face and a heart, which on a yellow shirt that says "I love Santa" or whatever, why is he stopping me? Right. So once he comes up to you, your rights get activated. This is what America does. When your rights are supposed to be activated, they curb your rights so they can maintain power and control of you, just like Iran and Russia and China does. So they know wider what not to do. You only ever discover it when you do it. Because, like I said before, they haven't changed the flag and they haven't changed the borders, but this is not the same country that you lived in like 30 years ago, even. And you're going to have to figure that out. So you want to restore it? Here's the thing that works in your favor. The laws are still the laws, right? You can lose your shit and make the laws, but the laws have to be in effect for you to do it. So if their friend is a drug dealer and everyone sees them dealing giant drugs, but they don't activate the law, you know what I mean? Law's a light switch. Just like if that cop beats up a family and steals their money and goes, I'm the best cop ever, and the hell with y'all, and that judicial system doesn't activate the law, but the law can be activated. So maybe Eric Adams will activate the law. Maybe, and this is the sad thing about AOC. She should she should have been just like the Workers' Family Party should have been for Eric Adams, and neither of them were because they're playing the long game. And quite frankly, Black people in New York City do not uh, figure into their long game, and that's the sinister thing. So, all right, we are just about out of time. I'd like to thank all who showed. Um, like I said, this was about the New York City mayoral race. My opinions on it. I hope those in New York take it very seriously. I think this is one of the ones that are consequential. That is consequential. That is consequential. Yeah. Again, people, not a professional speaker, not a professional thinker, or just a dude standing in front of a camera, asking the internet to love him. um, but if I tell you anything, voting is important. But if the devil shows up and he tells you that voting is important, you might want to take a pass on voting that time around, right? My whole position is always Black people are not allowed to vote. You should vote now. It's your birthright, but it's also your birthright not to vote. Don't be guilted into voting for people who will then get into these elected offices and completely undo your family. I mean, everyone's talking about all of us together, America, but only a handful of people are actually a handful. Like I can't say a handful, but like a good percentage of people are shouldering the burden, and that good percentage are being robbed by a small percentage of the society who sit at the top. You know, pay your taxes, right? Um, if I don't pay them, they'll throw me in jail or fine me, right? Um, try and keep up on that shit, even though I'm fucking mental. Um, and I'm sure you do the same. So why aren't they? You know why? They know very fucking well that they have to, but they're surrounded by lawyers and bribed people that they're arrogant about it. And that's it. Right? So somebody like first of all, Elon Musk is not even a fucking American, he's Canadian. Right? So he's in our government building shit for he's not paying taxes. Are you fucking kidding me right now? Seriously? Seriously? Ugh. All right. So look, man. We've got 20 seconds. I got love for you. I'm gonna take a sip. I'm gonna relight. And I'm going to hope that this time around, at least for the next 4, maybe 8 years, New York City will have a mayor that is not just a child of the city who ran the streets and climbed the trees and laid in the grass and dated and married the girl and worked hard to better the place, better himself and better the place, worked hard to keep a good name for himself, worked hard to keep a good name for the organization he was establishing. And I really do believe that in not 100 years, but in like 10 to 15, the New York City Police Department will stand up and go, Eric Adams was one that well, not you missed, but we were unappreciative of, and we're glad that he was one of us, right? And I think that's going to happen. So the mayor's race is coming. You know the dates, you know the times. If you don't, look them up. Use the Google. I shall see you shortly. My nephew should be coming through. We're going to do a show for him. He just signed up to HAPS. Uh, Maybe I'll broadcast off that of my channel. Peace and love. And I will see you in a few. But on the next 13, which is Monday, I will probably be doing the Marianas boat lift. Man, do I always mangle that. The Maria. Yeah, so anyway, I'll be doing all the Cubans and Haitians who got dropped into Florida and totally changed the voting structure. And now the Cuban mayor is telling you how essentially Black people don't need to vote there, and I'm going to write laws against them doing that. And this is what happens. You have a whole bunch of people dumped into your society who don't know who Washington or Franklin or James Madison or Paul Revere or any of these fuckers were. All right. All right. I got mad love for you. Peace and hair grease. See you next time.